Hey everyone, my name is Michael Ray Williams, and we are here with some more programming for Con Carolinas. We've got a panel here now that is acting for the camera, and at this time, I would like to go down the line and introduce our panelists. Angela, since you popped up first, you take it away.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Angela Pritchett. I am an actress and special effects makeup artist. I've been in features like Plan 9, the Pork Chop Trilogy, mostly horror stuff, but you can also find me on television, on shows on Discovery ID, the CW, and stuff like that. And who's next?
All right, who's next? Tom?
Hi, I'm Tom Gore, actor, filmmaker, college football player at Methodist University, working on my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Graphic Design. You can see my work in Broken Swords, where I'm an actor, The Last Airbnb, where I'm also an actor, and a lot of these panels here at Con Carolinas talk about things such as acting and filmmaking in all its various regards.
All right, who's next?
Me? Hello?
Have at it.
Okay, hey,
Please.
hi, I'm Butch Patrick. I've been hanging around the movie business most of my life since 1960. Although I've got several hundred credits, everybody will always remember me probably for Eddie Munster on the classic TV show The Munsters. And I'm glad to be here. So I'm looking forward to the next hour.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you all for being here. I'm really excited to dig in, and let's not waste any time. So the first question I wanted to throw out there is specifically about everyone's backgrounds in relation to film and or theater, and where your training you think you would say came from. And since Butch, since you're on my screen right now, let's go ahead and start with you.
Okay, basically I grew up in Los Angeles, which was lucky for me because back in the heyday when I started acting, you pretty much had to be on the West Coast in Hollywood because the technology was such that you couldn't be doing it like you do today. Nobody in my family really was in the movie business. The closest thing we had was my uncle supplied horses and Western props to the studios, which was very cool. And his son was a stuntman for Zorro, which if you're old enough to remember Zorro, it was a very cool show in the late 50s, early 60s over at the Disney lot.
Very cool.
Stumbled into it accidentally that my sister was being considered for some photography work. I went up and got a picture or two taken myself, and Mary Grady had a child agency, and she got me my first role in a movie. And then I got General Hospital, and then I got a Kellogg's Cornflakes commercial, and I stumbled into it, never took any acting classes, had kind of a natural gift for it. And that's how I started.
Good to go?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, well, since Tom decided that he wanted to attack us with technical difficulties, I'll just turn the question over to him.
Oh, where were we in the question? Oh, theater.
Your background.
My background is actually in stage theater production and improv comedy. That's where I got my feet wet. Yeah.
All right. Brevity is the soul of wit. Angela.
Okay, basically when I was younger, I grew up in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I went to a performing arts elementary school where every year we performed Shakespeare plays abridged because we were little kids. So I started doing theater at a young age and then kind of just fell into film acting. And then I went to school for music and kind of just kept acting through school in the market that I could find. And now, like, it's a lot easier to just travel back and forth and do stuff. So I know what I do.
Okay. Here's a question, and since we do have a variety of different backgrounds and different approaches, I feel like it would be an interesting question to hear different perspectives on. Given the bulk of experience that we have here, what would you argue is the most important, training or talent?
I'm going to say both, actually. You have to have some type of talent and some type of motivation to want to do it because it is not easy. Like, you have to be that person consistently trying to audition for roles while also being told someone else got it and being able to get over that aspect of it. So you have to be able to, one, audition and do stuff like that and be able to forget about it. So there's the aspect of motivation in there too, but you also have to be able to act because there are some people that want to act and you can learn it over time if you're willing to, but
Right.
if you have that natural talent, then sometimes it's a little easier. You have to have a very, very hard spine and a big stomach for it.
This is very true.
I'm going to say that was a trick question. It takes neither. It's going to be, I'm going to go with passion, because if you don't, it doesn't matter how much talent you have. If you don't apply it with passion, it's going to fall on the floor. And if you don't, and whatever the other option was, which was completely, what?
Training.
Training. And if you don't show up to school, you're not going to learn anything anyway.
But wouldn't passion and motivation be similar then?
Indeed.
No,
it's somewhat
because I've seen
semantic.
plenty of people with motivation and no passion, and vice versa. Our military is run on motivation and no passion.
That's a fair point. All right, Butch,
Happy
what do you
Memorial
think?
Day.
Well,
Disclaimer: Tom was in the military, so.
For 20 years.
I've got an unusual spin on that particular thing, because I never took any training. I was lucky enough to have a knack for it, and a lot of times, the way I read the script is what the casting directors were looking for, which then got me the part, and then I was able to adjust it and tweak it if the director needed it a little different, which was you have to be able to do that. But luckily for me, about 90% of the time, I was pretty much just being myself, which really made it easy. I had a good memory and I could memorize. I was actually old beyond my years mentally, but I looked younger. So they really like that, because when you're 8, acting 18, or when you're 10 and you look 8 and you're acting 18, it's perfect for the business. But
Right.
what I used to actually host a thing called How to Get into Show Business the Right Way for a woman that was a casting director. And we would do screen tests for kids, and we would take in people. And I had a unique bridge because I was dealing with the parents of a child sometimes. So because I was a kid actor and now I'm an adult, I would have this go-between situation. And unfortunately, to answer the question, you really need talent first, in my opinion. I mean, you can only teach somebody so much stuff, and if there's no talent there, unfortunately, you have to sort of break the news to them. And this happened to me a couple times. And the way I would address that to people was, I would say, look, to the parent, I go, we're really going to have a tough time. And I know what it's like to go on interviews. And I know what it's like, keep getting shot down. And I don't know how strong she is. I've only just met her, but I would say this. I go, if she wants to do it, my suggestion is to make sure she's doing it for the love of it, and get her into community theater and let her just have fun. Don't try to put her into the front of the class and go on interviews and stuff, because she's going to not get any parts. I mean, between you and I. But at the same time, what I would tell people, if they want to just be in the industry and they don't really care if they're in front of the camera, they just want to be in the industry, now we can talk, because there's a lot of other things you can do to make a living that isn't an actor. And that's when people usually say, oh, really? I never thought of that. And I would turn them on to other things that they might be able to pursue, that they had a lot better chance of doing. And I would always tell them, no matter what happens, the stuff that they're learning to be an actor is going to help them in everyday life, and their communication skills and everything else will come into play. So the acting training is going to be beneficial in whatever you do.
Absolutely. You compared to the rest of us, you have a much more unique situation. Now you had been acting for a while before you started working on the Munsters, correct?
Yep. I started in '60. I did I did a year General Hospital. The first year was on the air. I did a year of The Real McCoys. I did about 25 guest starring roles at very old TV shows, early '60s, black and white. And then the Munsters came along, and that was my third series.
Do you think that that being as young as you were when you started, do you think that the people that you were surrounded by kind of gave you a crash course in that training a little bit?
Yeah, it's funny. They used to have a nickname for me. They used to call me One Take Patrick, and they used to call me a 39-year-old midget, because I was really good at memorization, and I would actually memorize everybody's lines. I used to have to stop moving my lips because I was so into it that I didn't want to miss my cue, that I would be murmuring the upcoming lines, and it was a problem. So I had to stop moving my lips. But I was lucky to the fact that I was just around really good directors and good people. My first movie, example, my first 6 weeks of work, Eddie Albert was my dad, Jane Wyatt was my mom, Brenda Lee was my older sister, Nancy Call, Soupy Sales was the comic relief cop. So I was around these really great, nurturing people from the get-go, and I picked up on it quick, and they were always good to me.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
The cast of the Munsters, they all had kids about my age. You couldn't ask for a better TV family to be hooked up with for a few years.
No joke. Fred Gwynn is one of my absolute favorite people. Just
Yep.
I have such a hard time not associating so many good things from my childhood with him,
Mhm.
and you too as well. I actually, and I was going to say this till the end, but I'm just, since we landed on it, I'm just going to go ahead and run with it now. When I was growing up, that watching the Munsters, that was something me and my grandfather did every day. Like, it was absolutely one of my absolute favorite shows. And you know, him and Al Lewis, they're just such strong character actors. So I can only imagine the benefit of being in that kind of environment and what it had in terms of the talent that was already there.
And they were a great comedy team. A lot of people, they were
Oh, for
underrated.
sure.
You know, they really were funny guys, and they played off each other really well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You and I actually have something really in common, because I too, my mutant ability is to be able to memorize scripts super fast. So that's good. That's good to know. So here's another question, just kind of following up on there. What do you think? Now, you started fairly young, and we kind of touched on, you know, how you got started. Do you think that there were any specific things that inspired you to keep doing it, other than the fact that you had a knack for it?
Yeah, I wanted to make enough money to buy a race car, because I was never going to work. I wasn't going to be working past the age of 18, and everybody knew it. I told them, when I turn 18 and I don't have the child labor laws protecting me, I'm out of here. All I want to do is do this until I get enough money to buy my race car. And that was common knowledge.
Inspiration comes in lots of forms, Butch. No judgment here.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I liked what I was doing.
Of course.
It was fun, and it beat going back to school, but I was never a career for me.
All right, Tom, what do you think? What's inspired you? What either inspired you to start doing it, or what has inspired you to continue to pursue it?
I spent 20 years in the Army, and I did a lot of destroying, a lot of destruction, killing, just wiping out and just clearing. I was bad. I was a bad man in comparison to what I am now. So when I got out of the Army and decided, hey, what do I want to do now that I have to grow up? I said, let me find one of the most creative, one of the most building things out there. And that's why I chose to be an actor. And by happenstance, I actually happen to be pretty good at it. And I've been lucky enough to find some really great friends that help me along in the journey to visualize and see my own things and carry me along when it's a little tough on me. And I'm very happy and grateful for that.
All right, Angela, what do you think?
Well, funny enough, I went to college to be a teacher instead. So I started teaching, and it was fun, but I kind of started wondering if I had wanted to actually like play a teacher instead of actually being one. So it was one of those things where it was kind of the realization for that too. And I mean, like, all through college and all through grad school and working as a teacher, I was still taking acting gigs, because depending on what market you're in, you take what you can get where you can get it. So I was still doing stuff on the side while teaching full time. But yeah, I loved that a lot more than teaching at a school, teaching, especially the current way of schools right now. So
Indeed,
that's a totally different subject to talk about.
we're not gonna fall down that rabbit hole.
No, we're not.
Not this time. That has dominated almost every conversation I've been in for the last 3 weeks, and we're not doing that tonight. So
I want to chime in. I have the utmost respect for teachers. That's a wonderful vocation. I love my teachers, all of them.
yeah, absolutely. That's actually something that I am my wife is currently in law school, and once she's done with law school, I'm going to go back to school to become a theater teacher. I absolutely
I may
love
have
it.
enjoyed it being a theater teacher more than being a band and orchestra teacher.
That makes perfect sense to me, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, there's only so many times you can talk about tuning an instrument. So, what would you say are some of the most important qualities that an individual needs to have to be successful on a film set? Angela, let's start with you, and we'll bounce back the other way.
A good work ethic.
Yeah.
You have to have the motivation and a good work ethic. You have to understand that your acting does not start when you get on set. It starts when you have that script and you're working on your lines and memorizing your lines and making sure that you know what your character's motivation is and what you're going to be doing, and working on all of that before you ever get to set and are with the other actors, unless you're doing like read-throughs and stuff, but you're still preparing before you're even at read-throughs. So it's understanding that, it may seem fun, it may seem like, it's a good time, but it's a job, and you have to go and prepare for that job and be ready for that job. And sometimes you may be doing a lot more work than you think you're going to have to do.
Very true. Tom, what do you think?
I'm going to just say the word repeat and ditto of everything Angela just said to make it easier on myself. And also some flexibility and some tenacity, because things aren't going to go your way. The way you're thinking it's going to happen is not. It's not your vision. You're just there as a tool to help explore someone else's vision. You're helping them tell a story for the most part, and you're just doing your part. So, and that's going to require some flexibility, and it's going to require some out-of-the-box thinking of what you want. So you can't be too rigid. You can't be like, this is exactly how I think it's going to be when you come in and it's a complete wipe where, hey, we need this to happen today, because you don't know exactly where the context and the tone of the scene is in. Of what you're performing in. A lot of people don't get that, and that's why I continue to still keep getting jobs.
There you go.
All right, Butch, what do you think?
Well, he's absolutely right on that one, and I had difficulty in that. That's why I was never going to be a career actor. I was good at what I did. I knew, be on time, hit your mark, know your lines, be prepared. I was good at that, but I wasn't good at being a character that I wouldn't have been in real life. You know what I mean? It was like I was trying to bring my reality into the script, and that's not what they were looking for. And I found it difficult to play stupid stuff. And
that's fair.
Luckily for me, I had a plan, and I did really well at what I wanted to do. But I could see that a career acting for me was not going to be for me. But I was smart enough to know it, and aware of my limitations. And I did what I did really, really well. And I could have worked more, but unfortunately, I live near a racetrack, and there was a lot more going on in my private life. So at times when I would say, you want to take 6 weeks for this movie, I'd go, no, Ascot's opening and I got to be over there. So I was pretty much taking acting as a well-paid hobby.
Okay, well, that was a really good segue into my next question, which we're going to pretend we planned it that way. So my follow-up there is what kind of learning curve did you come up against? What kind of obstacles did you come up against? And did you find yourselves ever in a moment where you were able to overcome those, or you weren't? And in that, what did you learn about yourself? We'll start with you, Butch. We'll just keep bouncing back and forth.
Well, a couple things come to mind. I'm much older than everybody here, so I was 16 years old in 1969. Got my driver's license, went to Brazil unaccompanied with no teacher and no parent for 3 months to do a feature film. As my sister likes to say, I left as Richie Cunningham and I came back as John Lennon. It was the 60s and it was party time. And when I came back, all I wanted to do was get high. And the last thing on my mind was serious business. And unfortunately, I lived near the beach. I had a surfboard, I had a car, and I went that way when work was that way. So I literally pretty much sabotaged my own career because like I say, I was never really that serious about it. And then you gave me some other things to do and I went that way. So, but you got to remember the lifestyle back then was acceptable, what I was doing, because I was in Hollywood. My girlfriend lived up in the canyon. I'd go to the canyon store and there would be Steven Stills. I had just done the Monkees. I'm friends with them. So if you really had that gene that you wanted to party and you like, getting high, it was a great time to be a teenager and have money, have access to stuff. So I that's kind of what happened to me.
Yeah, those days are over now.
Yeah, no. They're over for me. But back then, I was smoking a joint and going to an interview and wonder why I didn't get hired. I was like, how stupid is that?
Hindsight, man, hindsight. All right, Tom, what kind of learning curve did you come up against, and how did you overcome it? Did you overcome it? What have you learned about yourself as a result of your film acting?
How I want to do things is not how it's going to get done. That is the biggest lesson I've had to learn, and I'm still learning it. There's certain things that are ingrained in you in the military after 20 years. There's the way the Army does it. There's the way the government does it. And it is a task, condition, and standard methodology. And you're going to do it, and you're going to succeed or you're going to fail. There's no middle ground. It is black or white. Whereas in film, there's a lot of gray. Even the black and white films, there's a lot of gray. And being, the acceptable limits of a standard are very different than a clear-cut and dry bureaucratic piece of paper that says pass or fail. And what's usable and what's tweakable is very different. And it was more of an exploration of what I can do, that and expanding of my limits, which was more enlightening than anything I could have garnered. It's that other bit that they don't tell you in the schoolhouse. It's that intangible that took a bit to learn from.
For me, it was more of, well, one, while I was working full time in another field, it was going, okay, this is something I love doing. I don't necessarily need to make money at it. So I'm going to continue to do something I love doing until it becomes something that I decide, hey, I'm going to pursue this completely instead of trying to have my comfy job that I can always pay my bills at. But it's one of those things where when you decide, hey, I love acting, I want to do this, it's going, what can I find in my area, in, where I live at, that I can do this, whether it's theater, it's independent film, and then going,
a practicality
okay,
argument.
Exactly. And then going, okay, I found this stuff. Now I need to try and meet these people and get in with it and go and audition, or be like, hey, do you need some help on set, until I know them enough to be like, hey, I want to be in your film, type thing at that local level. So it's one of those things where anyone who is thinking of, hey, I want to do film, look at what's around you first and see what you have to your disposal there. Because even if you live in LA and you go, hey, I'm going to be an actor, they're going to be like, okay, can I see your headshots? Can I see your reel? What have you done before? What's your resume? Stuff like that. And you're going to be like, nothing. And they're going to be like, okay, well, get some training and come back once you have a little bit to show me, because you're going to have 20 other people who have had those guest starring roles, those co-starring roles, and have been working at it for years and already did all that training and everything that they're going to tell you you need to get. So unless you are like the next coming of, I don't know, Tom Cruise or something, then, they're going to be like, slow down, buddy. Whoa. So it's one of those things where it's also just knowing that you need to look at what's at your disposal and really decide, is this what I want to do? Because
I'd like to just add something to that, which is right on, is also, when you do get an agent, I would tell people, please make sure you get an agent that you're not the 17th person that's your height and weight and coloration. Get a small agent where you're like only the second or third person in that category they got. And because you're going to get lost and you're not going to wind up getting any work. So get a smaller, hungrier agent, and make sure that they don't have a zillion of your types in the file.
Yeah, and a lot of times their web pages will have pictures of the people that they are representing on them.
Yeah, when I was doing this, there was no web, there was no internet.
Yeah. But
now it's a little easier.
I know when I was looking for an agent, I went and looked at all the local ones and everything like that. And I looked and I was like, oh, they have 20 girls who have long brown hair. So no, let's go to the next one. And that was the thing. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, why don't you try contacting this person? They would totally sign you. And I'm like, well, because they have 10 other girls that look just like me.
Yeah, that's really true. You got it.
As filmmakers of varying experience levels, we all know that, and if you're watching and listening and you don't know this, I'm going to clue you in. When you're there in the moment, doing the scene, filming the shot, the audience may not be aware that off camera, there's a million things going on. There's a million people. I remember we shot a feature film last summer, and I had to do this really intense, intimate, heavy, emotional scene, and there were like 30 people in the room with me. And it was very uncomfortable and weird. So when you're there in that moment, what do you think are some tips you might give some of our aspiring actors to maybe help yourself stay focused and help yourself stay centered when there's so much going on outside?
Well, back in the day, luckily the Munsters. I'll use the Munsters as an example. It was a very sets are usually pretty dark anyway, but in the old days, the lighting was much different to where the lights were hot. They were focused on a spot in the living room, and once you were there, it was almost like having a spotlight. If you're doing stand-up comedy, you don't really see out past anything. You're pretty much all you can really see is who you're interacting with, and everything else is just kind of phasing, and it's in a dark shadow, which was probably good because you didn't really. Because I used to tell people, they go, "Well, what was it like to be on TV?" I go, "Well, if you watch a TV screen, if you look about 6 inches outside the screen, you'll see a big fat guy with a coffee cup leaning against the light, looking at you, because that's what it's like. What you see is just, if you go just a foot outside the screen, there's a whole other world there you don't know about." Which is exactly what you're talking about, having all the other the technicians and the people on the set. For some reason, I could just focus and just block it out. I just would zone in on the role I was doing and who I was interacting with. And I used to actually say, when close-ups would come up, I would say, I don't need anybody to come in and throw lines at me, because I knew they were working really hard, and for them to come in and stand there and be there. So I would just be able to even do my close-ups without having anybody there, by just looking at 2 inches off the top of the camera, knowing where Fred Gwynn his face would be.
Right.
And they really liked that because it gave them a chance to take a break. And so I was able to do it. Now, I can't do theater. I'm scared to death of live audiences, but
That's
cameras,
so interesting.
cameras and lights don't bother me at all.
That's so interesting, because especially so my background is in theater, and I know that and when shows like the Monsters were happening, the equipment was the same as theater equipment. The lighting was. They use these big, they're called Fresnels. They're huge, and they got super hot. Like hot enough literally to fry an egg on. The theater I used to do a lot of work for, that's all they had. I've burned myself quite a few times on giant theater lights. So there's a degree that comes with stage acting, that you're literally blinded by that light, and the audience disappears if the light's set that way. Now, you can certainly feel that those people are still there. It's just so interesting, when I meet actors who have like a hard line of with, nope, I don't do it in front of people, and they talk about the nerve aspect of it. That's just a very interesting thing to me. I get nervous doing all of it. I still love doing it, whether it's in front of an audience or in front of a camera. But anyway, Tom, what do you think? What was the question I asked? Oh yeah, what's a way that you help keep yourself centered?
I realize that even though I may be that one person delivering that one line for that one scene, and the whole shot list is wrapped around this one event, I know it's not about me. I know it's not about me. I know I'm there to make someone else look good. I know I am there to sell a product, sell a performance, sell somebody something. So I know it's not about me no matter what. There's 30 PAs telling me to stand in the right spot, 3 producers making sure I filled out all the forms, the director losing his mind and actually getting 5 minutes to himself before he comes over and says, "Hey, just deliver your line right here to this spot and we're good." Cameraman running around doing freaking 360-degree somersaults, just trying to get the side of my hair from the right angle with the right light. And it's literally a circus, and you're just trying to hold your composure to deliver, "Please buy Timberland boots," and then it's done, and then you go cash your check and you eat some ice cream, and it's a very good day in the world.
All right, Angela.
For me, it's one of those things like I grew up having stage fright and having the nerves and everything. So it's one of those things where I learned to overcome that by relentlessly learning everything and doing it over and over and over until it became second nature. And once I got there, I could just block out everything. So because while there's a scene going, all those people behind you are supposed to be quiet, depending on what type of set you're on. Sometimes they're not. But for the most part, like that helps too, because not hearing anything that you can't see and focusing on what you're supposed to be doing does make it a lot easier to execute it the way you want to, and also to be flexible. Because if you know what you're going to do, like backwards and forwards, a director coming in and saying, "Hey, that was great, but can you alter this or do this instead?" That makes it a lot easier to be flexible, because then you're like, okay, let's do this.
We've touched on a lot of like conceptual stuff and just some detailed background stuff. Continuing in that vein, tell me about, and it can be, I mean, I would prefer it to be written. No, we're just going to hardline it. Tell me about the worst day you had on a film set. You do not have to use names if you don't want to, or tell us what project it was. But describe the events of the worst day you've had on a film set.
Okay, well, this is going to be so every once in a while I do I'll just randomly do extra work or seat filling work because extra money is extra money.
Right.
You don't have anything going on. And I worked on Swamp Thing for a couple of days when it was filming in Wilmington, and it was January in North Carolina, and it was like 20 degrees outside or less, and they had no heaters on set, no heaters in holding.
Oh,
and it
Lord.
was a summer scene. It was supposed to be Louisiana in the summer in the bayou, and it was freezing cold, so no jackets or anything. I actually spent the next week with bronchitis, sick.
Oh, no.
I spent the next day with like 6 layers of clothing on because my body was just not getting warm. So it was one of those things where it was like, I learned a lot on set that night. I also learned that theater students don't think they need acting classes because they're in school for theater. So after trying to tell a theater student who asked me about an acting class I was in, and then was very shocked that I paid so much money, which theater classes in Wilmington aren't crazy expensive, or not acting classes in Wilmington aren't that expensive, but was so shocked that I paid money to take a class that I didn't get college credit for. And I was like, you do realize that
Oh, dear.
some classes that's not how, what?
It must be nice living in a bubble.
I know. So I tried to explain to them that, maybe he needs to take an acting class so he can learn the business of acting growing up in Wilmington, North Carolina, because if you move to Atlanta or Los Angeles, you're going to be very shocked at how different the business of acting is compared to little old Wilmington, North Carolina. But
Truth.
But yeah, no, that was a very interesting set just because it was so cold and I got very sick after it. But acting wise, I've had a lot of very positive experiences on most of the sets that I've worked on.
And we will touch on that after this question.
I was just saying that's one of the things that's really hard for me to pick outside of random extra work.
Okay. Tom, tell me about a terrible day on film set.
I have a very different perspective on life. Every day that I'm on a film set is a great day, no matter what.
Oh
Today's
my God,
Memorial Day.
So
I've got a lot of dead friends. And my perspective is after 4 combat deployments, every day on a film set is a great day. There is not a thing you can do. We could be doing Ben-Hur again for the 3rd time, and it would still be great in comparison to some really shitty days I've had in life.
All right, Tom, you're in timeout. Butch, tell me about a bad day on film set.
Well, okay, I two quickies, and they were both when I was very young. One, I was doing a movie called A Child Is Waiting. John Cassavetes was directing, Judy Garland, Burt Lancaster, and a bunch of kids. And the premise of this show was about this school for special needs kids. I wasn't one of those kids. I was on the outside when a kid escaped, and I befriended him. And I had this long dialogue that I had learned. And at the last minute, John Cassavetes rewrote all my dialogue.
Oh, no.
And I panicked. I'm 8 years old. And I knew my lines. And I worked really hard to get them. And he didn't quite understand that it was difficult for me to drop everything and redo it on, he gave me 5 minutes. He goes, here's your new line, read this. And I panicked. And my mom basically came to my defense and got in his face and said, you can't do that. He knows his lines. You gave him his lines. If you're going to do it, he'll learn them, but don't tell him 5 minutes. Give me a half an hour or give me some time. He's a quick. But the way he did it and made me feel bad, and then I'm in front of people, and because I couldn't do it, I started crying. So I'm in tears. My mom's yelling at John Cassavetes. Burt Lancaster comes up and takes me aside and learns the lines with me. And because that's a classy guy right there. Sees the issue.
Sure.
Gets my mom away from John Cassavetes. Everybody takes a break because Burt Reynolds is about the only person that could. Burt Lancaster is about the only person that could say, "We're just going to stop for 15 minutes here, and we'll be back." And that's what he did. that, and then the worst day of my life was we were working in a commercial in the Valley when the day Kennedy got shot.
Oh
And
no.
the director, everybody's in tears, and the director said something really derogatory about him, and basically said, "Let's get back to work," and just was a real dick about it.
Yikes.
And it stuck with me about that, because I mean he had less than zero compassion. It was almost like he was happy about it.
Oh my
And
gosh.
was very angry that anybody that felt that they shouldn't get back to work was on his shit list. So those two incidents I remember.
Yikes. Yikes. Well, let's do a 180. Tell me about what you would do. We're about out of time. We got about 15 minutes left. Tell me about the absolute best day that you think you've had on a film set specifically. And Butch, we'll start with you, Butch.
Okay, all right. No worries there. Yeah, I was 14 years old. It was a 3-day window, and I got to do the Monkees had a Christmas show. I got hired. I spent 3 days with the hottest guys on a television show. They were all over the place. They were like the Beatles, but kind of like better, because they were like, they had their own TV show in America. And I got to work 4 days with these guys. And I very rarely would tell people when I'd go back to school that I got my part. I was pretty quiet, pretty private about what I was doing. Everybody in my 8th grade class knew I was working with the Monkees.
Of course. How would you keep that to yourself?
I told them all, and honestly, it worked out well. I'm still friends with them, and for a 14-year-old kid to spend a week with the hottest guys on the planet, that was a big week.
I bet. Tom, give us a specific day. Give me one specific event that you could describe as the best day on ever, and none of this, all of them are the best day ever crap.
Oh my God!
Give me one specific thing that you could describe as the best film set, best day ever.
I got called up to be on the set of Veep for season 4 up in Maryland, Baltimore and DC area. The one of the ADs pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, how available are you for the whole production?" I'm like, "The whole thing. I'm whenever you need me." He's like, "Come in every day," and I was like, "Okay." So I spent all of season 4, like I was his right-hand man, and I would do weird stuff and like some stuff, and it's because of my size and where the camera sat. Sometimes I was just doing a wipe. Sometimes I was just moving, going on from one side, changing shirts and going to the other side. And it was, some of it was extra work. Some of it was guided monkey work. Like I was just a puppet on a string a lot of the times. But I'm clearing $300 to $500 a day for nothing. Getting fed, dumb, and happy. Dude, I'm just like, he just asked me to be here every day, and I'm like, sweet. I was like,
all right.
And the best thing is craft services is you're not getting fed, you're getting gourmet food.
Yeah, yes. You're getting fed.
Yes, it was some premier Baltimore chow.
All right, Angela, tell me about your best day ever on a film set.
Gosh, I just want to say all of 2019 because everything I did that year was awesome.
No, pick one.
I know. I'm working on it. I'm trying to
pick one.
Okay. November 2019. Last year, I worked on a Netflix movie in a very, very, very small capacity. But I got to watch Amy Poehler direct.
Oh my gosh.
3 days on set, and she was literally in touching distance of me, and it was just amazing because no matter what capacity I am working on in a film, there's always the ability to learn while you're there and to be focused and watch and stuff. So it's one of those things where there's just groups of people over here just talking and hanging out, and I'm just sitting here making sure that I'm learning everything I can while I'm there. And I was right next to the main talent for the film. And so she was just right there talking to them the whole time. I'm just like, holy crap, like getting to watch someone that as an actress you admire and just as a force of nature that you admire in film was really, really cool.
Activate sponge mode, absorb all of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have all acted in front of the camera at various points in time. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an acting prompt here, if you'll bear with me. You are in the room with an aspiring young actor. You've got 2 minutes. what do you tell them to set them on their way in the right direction?
Oh goodness. Okay. Well, do it because you enjoy doing it and you love it. If it starts to seem like it's too much of a burden or something, then go back to acting, go back to the way go back to the way of doing it when you loved it. Like if you decide, hey, doing this as a career is just too much, I'm not getting to where I feel like I should be, then go back and do it how you loved doing it, whether it was just doing theater, it was just doing local stuff. Just don't get to the point where you're jaded with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom,
Sir.
you're in the room with the young aspiring actor. You've got 2 minutes to give them some life-changing advice to set them on the right path to be successful as a filmmaker. What words do you say?
Do you see the path you're on now? Because it leads to this. Here. What you're doing now gets you right back here at this age doing this. Intervention is right now. Do something different so you don't end up like this.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Tom. That was ever so enlightening. You're always a peach. Butch.
Okay. It's very similar, as I said, when I did these acting classes and how to get into show business. I basically my advice has always been do it because you enjoy it. You know, if you're thinking about making a career out of it, the chances are against it. So don't go into it for those reasons. Life experience, everything you do in life, you can draw upon. If you ever are called upon to, the more life experience you have, the better off you're going to be. So draw from that, and maybe get a style. Look at what's your favorite movie, what's your favorite movie star, what do you enjoy, and try to learn from watching others. Not to duplicate them or copycat them, but to get a feel for what you're going for will give you some indicators of what your style may be. Because even though you're an actor, you're going to do various things, but you want to have some kind of a feel for what you would like to do at least. And then mainly just do it for the love of it and stay busy. Community theater. I tell people, look at if you're not in LA or New York, you can call the film commission and find out where permits have been pulled, where they're going to be shooting on location. Go hang around the location. You might pick up an extra thing to get a box lunch and $50 or $100 and be around the set. All that can be helpful.
Excellent. All right. Well, we are about out of time, so we're going to take these last few minutes to do the absolutely 100% shameless self-promoting. Where can people see your stuff? How can people get in touch if you want them to get in touch and see more about you? I've
been very lucky. The character of Eddie Munster has allowed me to do a lot of interesting things. If you had to pick a show to be part of, I got very, very lucky. I actually have a Munster coach. I'm a hot rod guy. I love cars. I travel the country, and I have a YouTube channel called Coach to Coast, spelled with a K on both words. And I do segments on Americana, very much like Charles Kuralt. And at the same time, you can go to munsters.com. You can go to my Facebook pages, or I'm also a spokesperson for Rise Botanicals. In case you have a need for any kind of the CBD in your life, I can recommend Rise as a good source of it. It's full spectrum.
Excellent.
You can find me at Tom Gore Actor on Instagram. You can look me up on IMDb at imdb.me/Tom Gore. Find me at BrokenSwordsForever.com, Amazon Prime. You can Google my name and watch my movies, watch stuff I've been in, like The Last Airbnb, Blood of the Mummy, and all the titles that you will find on my IMDb page. You can find through the various video watching streaming services.
Angela, give me some shameless self-promotion.
Okay, well, you can find me at any of the things over here next to my head. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Angelise. If you enjoy Dungeons and Dragons, and Tom and Michael as well, you can find us on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock on my Twitch channel playing Dungeons and Dragons. You can find me Angela Plays Ukulele on YouTube, where I do different ukulele covers, and you can just kind of.
How cool is that? Ukulele covers over here, right over there. I can see it.
Yep, right there.
Just check them out. They're very entertaining.
And you can find me doing.
One more thing? I forgot to add one thing. I'm sorry. Macabre
That's
Theater.
okay, please.
Comp Theater, Saturday nights, YTA, U2 America on Saturday, 7 East, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Ivana Cadaver and myself, we host scary movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Good
man, what? How do we see that again?
The Comp Theater on YTA. It's called U2 America, streaming and on cable throughout the country with the host Ivana Cadaver and myself.
I'm gonna check that out because I absolutely love that style of of movie watching. That's one of my favorite things. So I want to thank all of you guys for participating. These were some excellent answers. I hope that I didn't do too abysmally as your host.
You did great.
I appreciate that.
Fantastic.
My name is Michael Ray Williams, and you guys will be able to see me before too much longer in the upcoming feature film Kill Giggles, which I am very excited to announce that we just won Best Feature Film at the Crimson Screen Film Festival in the beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. So a big shout out to those guys, and a big thank you to anybody watching this. Please continue to check out the Con Carolinas programming. This convention has been around for a long time, and we've all been affected really heavily by what's going on in the world, and we're using Con Carolinas and this platform to try to shed a little bit of positivity and to try to keep some sense of that normality that we're all lacking and all missing. So really thank you from the bottom of our hearts for participating, and please continue to do so.
It's going to be good.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.